So I wanted to take a moment and show you how to detect where shadow is on your forms when you're painting or drawing. So I've got a butternut squash set up here in a little shadow box with a direct light source from the upper left. Got very little ambient light coming in there, so it's just lit under one light. Another way you can tell that is I've got one cast shadow from this squash. And for the shadow shapes on the squash, you can kind of tell here, I've got like a triangular shadow, and then I've got a shadow across the bottom. So basically the light coming out of my light source is striking the squash, and as the squash rounds in space, there's areas that aren't receiving any direct light and are therefore shadow. And if I have trouble, like in this front area, telling, well, where does that shadow begin? Where does the light end? What I can do is hold up a very thin knitting needle or a skewer or a pencil between the light source and the object, the squash, closer to the squash, and just hold it there, move it around, and what you'll see is that shadow of the skewer cast onto the squash. And you'll see it everywhere that there's light striking the squash. You won't see it where there's shadow on the squash because the shadow of the skewer won't cast shadow onto shadow. So as I move this back and forth, you'll notice the shadow shape down here is kind of triangular in this area, and then it gets bigger along the back edge of the squash. Same with down in the bottom. If I hold my skewer down there, can you see where that line of shadow from the skewer disappears as it enters shadow on the squash? Same with the stem. There's smaller shadow shapes, but you can see this little area, and you can see these couple millimeters down here where that stem wraps under and connects with the squash. So this is a great way to look at what is shadow and what is light on your object. If I go over here to a flower, to this rose, I've got all these petal forms, all these shapes. I kind of know my light is coming from the left. I kind of know that anything deep in here is really going to be shadow because no light can strike it. But I do have areas that, like in here, I see a spot of light. It's kind of coming in from this side, and there's a gap under here, and it's creating this light inside there. It's not reflected light, it's too bright. If I hold my skewer over that area, that opening where that light is getting in, it shows a cast shadow onto that area. Down here, that looks like light, and it's pretty evident where the light ends and the shadow begins. So I'm good on that one. These are good. These are all evident. So I go over my forms, my objects, whenever I'm working, just to check and see if I'm missing anything or if something's confusing. This leaf, it's kind of turned right into the light, just like my hand, but do you notice when I turn it about there, I get a real low raking light from my light source? And depending on how far back my hand is, it would have to turn more to end up in shadow. So if I'm further out this way, when the light is shining that way, I'm going to be in shadow. And as I turn my hand, it enters the light. So that leaf is kind of doing that. It's right on that kind of precipice between the two. I see light on here, nothing on there, so that's going to be in shadow, and the lower part in shadow. So this is a great way to check your objects and find out what's going on between your light source and the forms.